Welcome back. Our topic for today is the tuple or tuple data type. The pronunciation depends on where you are coming from. So the tuple or the tuple data types look similar to the list data type that we have already looked at. But unlike list, tuples are immutable, okay, and less flexible. Alright, so let's look at how we declare tuples. And say my tuple equals, we use parentheses or brackets to declare tuples, unlike lists where you use square brackets, okay? And tuples can also contain heterogeneous set of items and duplicate, all right? So we can give anything that we want here. We can declare a tuple in this way, or we can also do it this way without the parentheses. So both are valid ways of defining a tuple, okay? And then if we print my tuple right now, you will see we have gotten something in parentheses, okay? So that is how we define a tuple. Also, if we print my tu, you will see we get it also in brackets, although we didn't define it in brackets, okay? So this, we can define a tuple this way or this way. Both are valid ways. We can also declare an empty tuple like this, as we saw in strings and lists. So you can use the empty parenthesis, and then if we print empty tuple now, you expect nothing, okay, in the parenthesis. We can declare empty tuple this way, or we can do this equals, then we use the tuple function, okay, and then we bring our parenthesis here. So if we print empty tuple, we expect that we get the same thing, okay? So these are the two ways that we can define or declare empty tuples. Let's move on to a tuple of one item. Now, if we have, let's say, var equals 1, because we said we use parenthesis or bracket to define tuples, okay? So we say var 2 equals, then parenthesis again, let's say name, and then var 3, let's pass in a list here, okay? And let's say C or anything that we want, okay? So let's print these variables and see something. If we print var, comma, var 2, comma, and then var 3. All right, let's separate these with new line characters so that we see what we want. And then if we run this, what are we saying here? 1, name, and then a list containing C. But we expect that this is supposed to be a tuple. That is, they are supposed to be enclosed in parentheses or brackets. But we didn't see it this way. So if we try to print the type right now of all these variables, let's see what we get. So if we run this, we are seeing that var1 has a class of int, var2 string, and then var3 list. So none of these are tuple. Why? But we enclose these in a parenthesis. That means if we want to define or declare a tuple containing only one item, we need to bring a comma, okay, after the first item. So if we print this right now, we see that the type will change to tuple. All right, all of them have changed to tuple. And then if we clear this and print them, you will see that they are now enclosed in a parenthesis. So if you run this right now, we are getting them in parenthesis. We can also perform indexing and slicing on tuples, as we saw in lists. Okay, so if you have a tuple containing 1, 2, 3, and let's say A, we can print the first item as we saw in lists like this using the indexing operator. So if you want to access the first item to be 0, right? If we print this right now, let me comment this one out so that our screen will not be clustered. So if we print this, we are getting 1 because the first item here is 1. All right, we can also slice some parts of a list. So if you run this right now, you get all of them. If you reduce this to 3, you get it. So all the functionalities of list slicing and indexing works here, except that tuples are immutable, so you can't assign or change part of it. Okay, so if you try to do this, change some parts of this tuple, so index of, let's say 1, then we try to assign it to a new value, let's say 100. Okay, you see we are getting the yellowish color here, and then Python is telling us that tuples don't support item assignment. So if you try to run this, you will get an error. So that is it. Tuples are immutable, so they don't allow changes once you declare them. Okay, lastly, let's look at tuple methods. We don't have much tuple methods. We only have 2 tuple methods. So if you try to print and then tap dots, we see only 2 have pop up here. All right, so only the index and then the count method are here. Those are the only 2 methods we can use on tuples. So if we try to use the index and then we want to find the index of, let's say 1, let's see what we get. We expect 0, right? As simple as that. And you can use the count to know the number of times an item appeared in a tuple, as we saw in list. You can also use the length function to know the length of the tuple. Okay, then you put tab here. So if you run this, 4, the length of the tuple is 4. We can also use a keyword called in to check if a certain item is in the tuple. All right, so we can say 5 in tap, and then if we run this, you expect false because that is, you are getting the Boolean data type that we looked at some time ago. So we are getting this because 5 is not in this tuple. If we change this to 1, you will see that true because 2 is in this tuple. Lastly, there's something that I want to talk about. This was seen as a function some time ago, but now it looks like it has changed to a data type. That is the range. Okay, so if we print range and then we pass in some values, let's see how the range data type works. You have to put in the starting point. It's like slicing a list or a tuple. Okay, and then the stopping point and then the step over, but some are optional. So if you don't pass in the starting point or the step over and you pass in a single value, if we print this, you get range from 0 to 10. But if you define the starting point, let's say 1 to 10, then you exclude 0. Okay, and always the stopping point is -1, as we saw in index. So if we print this, actually we won't get 10 in it. But this is just printing to us as range. How can we visualize this? The values that are in this range, we can use list on it, turn this range into list. And then if we print this right now, let's change this to list. So if we run this, we are seeing that the first one started with 0 and the second one started with 1. So we can also use the in keyword to check whether 0 in this one and then 0 in this one. Let's see what we get. You are getting true and then false. So these are some very important concepts that we are going to use to build some complex things. So understanding them is very important. All right. Bye bye for now. See you in the next video.